Hello and welcome back to Excelshare Academy. So again, we are going to do certain interview questions which are going to be related to the cell cycle. So I hope you like the previous two videos, and this is going to be the third and the last one. And after that, I'm going to take two sessions on the data interpretation. So when you see any figure, any given data is there, how to interpret the data. So that skill you need to learn once you start doing your PhD or any other research work. So let's start with our interview questions. So first question is, why do chromosomes shuffle between the two poles of spindle during pro-metaphase? So this we already know that when chromosomes are present and they're aligned at the metaphase, so we know that the spindle fibers are attached to the chromosomes, right? So here you have got the kinetochore and the spindle fibers are attached. So now the question is, why do chromosomes shuffle between the two poles of the spindle during the metaphase? So now this is important. Chromosomes will shuffle back and forth as they are pushed and pulled by the microtubules which are emanating from the opposite poles of the spindle. So this is very simple. So we know that the centrosomes, they get split into two centrioles and they go into the opposite poles of the cell, right? So you can see over here your centrosomes are there. Now these chromosomes are like the sister chromatid. So one sister chromatid has to go in this direction, the another has to go in the other direction. So for which the microtubules or the spindle fibers, they get attached to the kinetochore and with the help of the motor proteins. So if you have studied the previous videos, so you know that what are the empty motor proteins? Those are your kinesin and dynein. So these motor proteins will help in taking the chromosomes or the sister chromatids into the opposite directions. Okay. So going to the next question. So in vitro mutagenesis of cloned lamin C DNAs has been used to generate mutants that cannot be phosphorylated by CDK1. How would expression of these mutant lamins will affect the nuclear envelope breakdown at the end of the prophase? So before I give you the answer about this, so you should know what are lamins. So lamins are your intermediate filaments. Okay. Now what is the function of these intermediate filaments? So if you remember, so these lamins A, B and C. So three types are there. So these together they form the protofilaments and they form the nuclear envelope base. Okay. So if you have the cell over here, nucleus is there. So the nuclear membrane, so below that membrane, this lamin layer is there. Now this is something which is helping to keep your nucleus into the shape and it is preventing from it to get collapse. Okay. Now, if you remember the figures, so we have got the lamin A intertwined with lamin C. So they are actually the helical proteins. Okay. Now with the help of the lamin B, they are actually supporting the nucleus. Okay. So this was all about the lamins. Now coming to the questions. So in vitro mutagenesis of cloned lamins. So they are saying that the mutant lamins have been made. Okay. Now these mutant lamins cannot be phosphorylated by CDK1. So what will happen? What will happen is suppose they are not getting phosphorylated by the CDK1. So then this phosphorylation. So we know that once they get phosphorylated actually, okay. So the nuclear membrane or the nuclear envelope actually starts breaking down. Okay. Now suppose they are not getting phosphorylated by CDK1. So then what will happen? Then the nuclear membrane is not going to break down. Okay. So now how would expression of these mutant lamins affect nuclear envelope breakdown at the end of the prophase? Now is the expression of these mutant lamins, if suppose phosphorylation is not happening because of the CDK, then the nuclear envelope will not get breakdown. So what will happen then? Even if inside the nucleus, if the chromatin gets condensed into chromosome, it cannot be then separated, right? Because it will get arrested at the prophase only and the cell will shut down. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So let's move on to the next question. how do mitotic protein kinases lead to formation of the mitotic spindle? So this is very simple actually, because they increase the microtubule depolymerization by polymerizing the microtubule associated proteins, and it also helps in increasing the outgrowth of new microtubules from the centrosome. And this is how it is helping in the formation of the spindle fiber. So this was quite easy actually. Now, you have identified a novel protein, let us say protein called S, that can be phosphorylated by CDK1. Okay, so how could you determine whether or not phosphorylation of protein by S, phosphorylation of protein S by CDK1 is involved in mitosis or not? So this is actually a good question, right? So what you can do is, you could actually mutate the phosphorylation site on the protein S. Like for example, you can do the mutation by carrying out amino acid change. For example, let us say you're changing the serine amino acids to alanine, or threonine amino acids to an alanine or valence. You can do that. Now, why I'm taking serine and threonine? Now, why I am taking serine or threonine as examples? Because these CDKs are actually your serine threonine kinases. Now why? Because they have got the OH group in their R group, right? So this OH group is at which the phosphorylation takes place. Now what they're saying is that if you have identified a protein S, and now this can be phosphorylated by CDK1. So CDK1 is your cyclin dependent kinases, right? So its function is to phosphorylate, by that is by adding the phosphate group. Now, how could you determine whether or not phosphorylation of protein by CDK1 is involved in mitosis? So what you can do is you can mutate the site. So you can mutate the phosphorylation site by maybe changing the serine or threonine into alanine. Okay. So this can be done using site-directed mutagenesis. So when I say about site-directed mutagenesis, it's your duty or your responsibility that you should know about site-directed mutagenesis. Okay. So now what you can do is, now you can determine whether mitosis is still taking place in the cells which is expressing that particular protein or not. So if suppose mitosis is still taking place, it means what? That the protein is involved or not, you can understand. If suppose it is not taking place, then you can say that yes, that protein is actually a part of the mitosis. Okay, so let me make it more clear. So you take a protein, whatever is given, like suppose here it is given S, you mutate by taking serine and threonine, converting it to the alanine. Now you check whether it is undergoing mitosis or not. If still it is completing the mitosis, then it means it is not involved in mitosis because you have mutated the protein, right? Now, suppose the cell is not able to complete the mitosis, it means then this so-called protein which you have mutated is actually a part of the mitosis. So I hope this question is clear, and this is how you should think before you answer, okay? Like these kinds of questions are generally asked during the interview. So it can be not only from the cell cycle, it can be from any topic. But keep in mind, the concept should be very clear. Like if you want to study something, then you need to block its activity and then check whether still that activity is being functioning or not. Okay, so that's how you actually understand. Okay, going on to the next question. A mutant of cyclin B resistant to ubiquitination by the anaphase promoting complex has been generated. Okay, how would expression of this mutant cyclin B affect the event at the metaphase to anaphase transition? So this is actually very simple. If you remember what happens, what is the function of anaphase promoting factor or all this thing. So if you know all this thing, then it is very easy to answer. So anaphase would initiate the normally, and however CDK1 cyclin B would remain active. So reformation of nuclei, chromosome decondensation, cytokinesis would not occur. Why? Because we need that time the activity of APC, right? And if suppose it is mutant and the cyclin B, the concentration is not lowering down, then it cannot proceed to the next phase. Okay. So what would be the result if a failure of the spindle assembly checkpoint allowed anaphase to initiate while one chromosome was attached to microtubules from only a single centrosome? So what will happen? So this will allow actually one daughter cell would receive then the 2 copies of the chromosome while the other will have none, or it is not going to receive the ones. Okay. So let me just make it more clear for you guys. So what they're saying is that if suppose the spindle assembly checkpoint is failed, okay, What is spindle assembly checkpoint? It ensures that to both the sister chromatids, your spindle fibers are attached. Okay. Now, in this case, suppose it is not attached. Okay. In this case, it is not attached. So, what will happen then? So, one of the daughter cells, okay, one of the daughter cells will have both the sister chromatids, and the another one will have none. Okay. So, here two will be there. Here none will be there. So, this is going to happen if suppose spindle assembly checkpoint is not functioning properly. So eventually what will happen? This cell is also going to die, and cell is also going to die because of the aneuploidy. So I hope you like these questions and it was very much clear. So keep watching. If any doubts are there, you can ask. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you for listening. I hope you like the video. So please share and subscribe, and share with your friend circle also. So let's study together for the upcoming exams. Any comments and suggestions are also appreciated, and any queries are there will be solved quickly. You can also write to us on Excelsior Academy 1228@gmail.com. Keep watching, keep excelling with us. Thank you.